So, as in part one, we were discussing about this topic of the issue at WTO about India's the public stock holding around the food security. So, Pravesh, as you were just mentioning, ki India is underdeveloped. So, I completely disagree with this thing. Ki India is underdeveloped simply because on this single basis. So, according to me, that's a blunder to say ki India is underdeveloped. And you can put forward what were your arguments regarding this topic.
Okay, so actually, in this topic, I would like to say only this thing that the government should do the rationalization of the food distribution under the food PDS scheme, because currently what is happening that the PDS scheme, which was started for below poverty line and to some extent to some people coming into the above poverty line, but today we are seeing that the people who are living a good standard of life, coming in, coming above the poverty lines and having a good standards, they are actually reaping the benefits of the PDS scheme. And despite a lot of reforms in the form of we have iris scan, we have finger scan, despite that, a lot of people are taking. So here, I think the rationalization can be done by the government when a proper data, a proper data accounting will be done of the poor and of the beneficiaries who actually deserve this. And here the support can also be taken uh, from various banking authorities uh, to actually have so that they can provide the details of the bank accounts that actually they come under the poverty line or not. And
See here, I
the
would say कि जो issue है WTO में, it is not PDS system. That is a part of it. Apart from this, जो public stock holding हम कर रहे हैं, saying कि it is important for the food security, that is also part. So जो rationalization की आप बात कर रहे हो PDS system में, so I don't think so कि वो main issue है. WTO जो demand कर रहा है, it feels कि जो public stock holding हम कर रहे हैं, जो PDS में हम benefits provide कर रहे हैं, scheme जो हम run कर रहे हैं, वो in a way it distorts the trade. तो रैशनलाइजेशन की वजह से आई डोंट थिंक सो WTO का स्टैंड चेंज हो जाएगा इस टॉपिक के ऊपर. तो अगेन मेन रीजन यही है, मेन इशू यही है, फूड सिक्योरिटी हमारे लिए इंपॉर्टेंट है एंड अगेन वी कांट कंप्लीटली गिव अप ऑन दिस थिंग. सो
no,
दैट्स व्हाई.
actually I was thinking about the first topic itself. I was not focusing
हाँ.
on this.
हाँ
Yes,
जी.
if the for the purpose of food security, the government of India is having
हाँ, सो दैट इज
public
नॉट
stock
मेन
holding,
इशू. यहाँ पे
so that
थोड़ा
is a good. And yeah.
लेट्स रिमेन टू दिस टॉपिक ओनली. यहाँ पे मूव फॉरवर्ड. So World Bank का जो Indian growth forecast है, that remains at 6.3%. Pent up demand that is waning up, so definitely that is expected also. And positive surprise is likely on the fiscal deficit, so it might result into again meeting up a fiscal deficit target. So here we see कि again World Bank ने क्या चीजें highlight करी है. तो World Bank, it has retained its the economic growth forecast for India 6.3% for the current financial year, despite expected higher average inflation also, which on the other hand, it could spring positive surprises on the fiscal deficit front. So, this definitely shows up जो हमारा robustness nature है या जो हमारा resilient economic system work कर रहा है. It shows that momentum continues. However, due to spike in the food items, food inflation हमारे लिए a cause of concern है. Bank, they have raised their average retail inflation also. So even expected inflation जो है, that has increased. So expected growth moderation on year, it is mainly due to the challenging external conditions. So internally ऐसे कोई major challenges नहीं है. Even when we talk about food inflation also, that is also somewhere related to, we can say, seasonal factor, but major external conditions are responsible and waning pent up demand. So these are two major things that have been highlighted by the World Bank, which would be majorly responsible for moderation of growth of India in the current financial year. So service sector activity की बात करें तो that is expected to remain strong with the growth of 7.4%, and investment growth that is also projected to remain robust at 8.9%. So apart from these all other factors, they are supporting India's growth.
What is this waning pent up demand?
सी पेंट अप डिमांड इज, जब हम बात करते हैं कोविड-19 टाइम पीरियड की, उस टाइम पे लॉकडाउन लग गया था, थिंग्स वर नॉट फंक्शनिंग आउट. अब अगेन जो आपकी डिमांड थी, दे आप बोल सकते हो एक तरीके से वो होल्ड पे हो गई थी. तो व्हेन द इकोनॉमी इट स्टार्टेड ओपनिंग अप, पीपल अगेन दे वांटेड टू रियलाइज जो भी उनकी डिमांड्स थी, वो किसी भी चीज की लाइक परचेज के लिए कुछ भी हो सकता है. तो वो अब वो जो पेंट अप डिमांड का इफेक्ट है, जो हमें अगेन हम बोल रहे थे कि रिकवरी वाले टाइम में हमें हेल्प कर रहा है, हमें इतनी ग्रोथ देखने को मिल रही है, किस पेस से हमने रिकवर किया आउट ऑफ द कोविड-19 इम्पैक्ट. तो अब जो इम्पैक्ट है ना पेंट अप डिमांड का, वो कम होता दिखाई दे रहा है, क्योंकि अगेन पीपल देयर, वो अब वो अनलिमिटेड टाइम तक तो चलेगा नहीं, या अनलिमिटेड पेंटअप डिमांड्स नहीं थी, वो एक फाइनाइट नंबर था। तो वहां पे हमें थोड़ा स्लो डाउन देखने को मिल रहा है, तो उसकी वजह से अगेन ग्रोथ में भी थोड़ा सा स्लो डाउन उसकी वजह से देखने को मिल सकता है। Then center aims to triple the palm oil output by 2030. So again यहाँ पे भी when we talk about the import of the edible oils, तो वहाँ पे again India is majorly dependent upon the import. So वहाँ पे we are again promoting कि हम कैसे अपना domestic production increase कर सकते हैं. So herein we are having this graph demand and output and imports कितना है. So for different time periods 2018-19 and 2022-23 का अगर हम compare करें, तो output was 10.3, 2018-19 में imports were around 15.57. So here in the figures is in million tons, and demand was around, we can say, 26 million tons. So उसमें से हम 15.6 import कर रहे थे and 10 हम domestically produce कर रहे थे. तो उस टाइम से आज तक हमारा domestic production increase हुआ है up till 12.24 and imports have marginally declined. एंड जो हमारा अगेन टोटल डिमांड है वहां पे भी हमें थोड़ा डिक्लाइन देखने को मिल रहा है. तो उसकी वजह से वी कैन से कि थोड़ा सा बेनिफिट एक इम्पैक्ट हुआ है, बेनिफिशियल इम्पैक्ट हुआ है, बिकॉज वहां पे एक तो एट द सेम टाइम डिमांड कम होगी एंड साथ के साथ थोड़ा सा जंप देखने को मिल रहा है डोमेस्टिक प्रोडक्शन में भी. तो वो जो गैप है थोड़ा सा फिल हुआ है, ये हम बोल सकते हैं. एंड डेफिनेटली वी आर फोकसिंग अपॉन अगेन कि हम डोमेस्टिक प्रोडक्शन को कैसे इंक्रीज कर सकते हैं. तो हेयर इन वी कैन गो इन फॉर कौन सी स्टेट्स में ज्यादा पोटेंशियल एग्जिस्ट करता है for the production. And yeah, these are the measures. So यहाँ पे again we can say कि bringing in more area under the palm plantation next 3 years especially, जो states under focus है that includes Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Assam, Tripura, Mizoram, and we're aiming to boost domestic output and reduce the import dependence. So these are the states which holds the potential for again plantation of the palm oils. So when talk about destination Uttarakhand, Global Investor Summit is would be hosted by Uttarakhand, so gateway from peace to prosperity. So let's focus upon क्या again focus sectors होने वाले हैं. So the multiple sectors, not just आप इसको again you can imagine it for national level, not just for this particular state of Uttarakhand. So automobiles, auto components, pharmaceuticals, agriculture, education, biotech, natural fibers. That is important. Film shooting के लिए horticulture, floriculture, tourism, hospitality. So these are some focus areas. Key policies of Uttarakhand again. यहाँ पे भी आप national level की policies सोच सकते हैं. Solar energy policy, service sector policy, MSME support. That's important. Startup policy है. Customized package again. Logistics में PM Gati Shakti program is working. Mega industrial policies, export policies, or different policies for the promotion different sectors. They are working. They're functioning at the same time. ट्रांसपेरेंट टैक्स पॉलिसी. सो हम कुछ एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव रिफॉर्म्स की अगर बात करें तो ट्रांसपेरेंट टैक्सेशन पॉलिसी, स्विफ्ट अप्रूवल्स फॉर द projects that is going to be a major attraction for attracting even FDI. Fractional cost of setting up the operation is compared to NCR. Good governance, image is a peaceful state of Uttarakhand. Availability of the suitable industrial land also exists. But again जब हम बात करते हैं so much of investment अगर हम expect कर रहे हैं, इतनी growth की अगर हम बात कर रहे हैं, at the same time here what I can see is little bit of missing is bringing into account the environmental health also. So sustainable development के direction में सारी policies they need to be in consonance with sustainable development also, because again of late हम देख रहे हैं hilly states में, जोशीमठ में हमने देखा land subsidence की वजह से deep cracks are being developed, so it is not a suitable area to even live safely over there. So all these factors needs to be now taken into account when we talk about development in future. So at WTO another जो issue की अगर हम बात करें, growing disregard for the trade rules shows world is fragmented. So Pravesh, you can take up all the relevant articles because today we're not taking up Indian Express newspaper as that is not available right now. So you can continue further.
Okay. So the topic is saying about the WTO growing disregard for trade rules, which shows that world is fragmented on these issues. So WTO and the crisis that is going on, more than piling up of unresolved disputes and growing list. ट्रेड कंसर्न्स की अगर हम बात करें तो बहुत सारे वो हैं, वो पाइल अप हो चुके हैं डब्ल्यूटीओ के अंदर. तो डब्ल्यूटीओ की अपील बॉडी है. Due to complaint over judicial overreach, 29 cases have been left in limbo in the dispute settlement body. The cases include the China, Dominican Republic, India, Indonesia, Morocco, Pak, South Korea, US, and there is a line which is written that no more fraud, no more pretending you are appealing. This is a statement which is given by Deputy Director of the WTO. So majorly, if we talk about India, so India is having issues in the agriculture, as we were talking, under the Amber subsidy program, which is having and surge of unilateral measures, if unchecked. So the WTO is saying if these measures will not be unchecked, so it will lead to fragment the world economy and strike 5% of the global income. It will also lead to import restrictions. But 2018, since we have seen that they have been eased when the US President Donald Trump was slapping traffic on goods from China, and US local content requirements are also set to raised under the Buy America Act, while the EU, which is the European Union, still preaches adherence to WTO rules. So there are a number of skirmishes which are going on the WTO regarding its dispute appeal body, then regarding the trade settlement pact, regarding the subsidies under the Amber subsidy, regarding the agriculture and food security program. So number of factors we have in the WTO which needs to be settled as soon as possible to prevent this fragmentation of the world, especially in the economy and the financial sector. So we can move forward.
Why do you think, I have one question. Why do you think that countries are now shifting more towards protectionist measures? What is the reason for that?
Because of number of factors. The primary factor is because of the distortionary policies by the developed countries, which the developing countries and underdeveloped countries actually challenges that unnecessarily the developed countries are pressurizing them to have an accord as per the policies which the developed countries wants, but the developing and the underdeveloped countries have to take these protectionist measures to provide the food security at their domestic level and to promote their development also. So
No,
I
here
think
we are like saying कि developed and developing countries. So we are seeing कि developed countries ज़्यादा protectionist policies follow and implement कर रहे हैं. जो change visible है, that is being visible and it is begin from the developed world. मतलब USA की अगर हम बात करें तो import curbs लगाना या import duties impose करना. So these are some of the changes जो हमें developed world में देखने को पहले मिल रहे हैं.
because the developed countries have a project have these apprehensions that these developing and underdeveloped countries under the favorable schemes of the WTO, they actually dump their agriculture products in the developed markets, which actually leads to the depletion in their markets. So that is a major apprehension because of which they are actually moving towards more protectionist measures.
Okay, then we can take up this page again.
Okay, so this one.
Yeah, we can take up this one. Long wait for the private capex.
So the capital expenditure by India's private sector, which is being backed with flavor of the season for large section of India's policymakers and leaders in the private sector. So this article is all about the capital expenditure, which is having an important role of the Indian policymakers as well as the private field and the private sectors. There was a report in the last month of the RBI regarding the private corporate investment performance and near-term outlook, in which it was seen that material improvement in private capex outlook is happening, and reports had that 40% of expected to be spent in financial year 24 of the total cost of projects which are financed by banks and the financial institutions. Then, apart from that, there are some optimism, banks' optimism, which have been cited and taken into account by the government, by the RBI, captured by the RBI confidence survey, and a banking system that has overcome its bad debt problem and is primed to lend, and a corporate sector that has deleveraged substantially. So these are some more economical news. And India's rating and research, which looked at industrial entrepreneur memorandum and business expectation index of 2005 to 2022, suggested a correlation between these two data indicators and researches that is RH and IEM. The BI recovered sharply and IEM were disappointing because of Russia-Ukraine conflict. So here we can see that how the global causes have a direct impact on every country's domestic policy making and development. Then we can say that total private sector projects sanctioned by Indian banks and financial institutions when the government-driven infrastructure is excluded have grown only 1.8%. So here we can take a note that even where the government is allowing the private sector to lead, still we have a lot of hope for the private sector to actually use that area and to expand their businesses. The picture is not bright in the bank credit growth number as well because of loan problems, credit problems, and in repayment also. Adjusted for inflation, and then we can talk about the public capex is doing its fair share of pushing the capex line item share and having some multiplier effect in other indicators as well. Bulk is coming from the heavy lifting from the private sector, and the economy faces a daunting challenge from subdued consumer demand that has potential to derail any nascent private capital revival. There are significant challenges for sustained consumption recovery from structural labor market issues, the lack of meaningful employment recovery in industry and construction sector. The younger population remains a key concern. So in the last of this article, the author is focusing upon the employment opportunities as per, we can say that meaningful employment opportunities is the need of today's India, where we have a lot of demographic dividend which actually can reap the benefit of that and can make and can push our country towards the status of a developed country as soon as possible.
So, Heron, I would like to ask you that what are the areas that the government is focusing upon when it comes to capital expenditure?
Well, I think in the capital expenditure,
Like we are
I'm
focusing
not able to recall. Yeah, you can say.
Yeah, semiconductor industries is being heavily promoted. Then we are going ahead with PLI scheme. That's important focus area. Apart from this, we are again focusing upon the fintech sector also. That's important. We talk about Gift City in Gujarat. So these are few areas that we are focusing upon apart from the basic sectors. That is definitely under our focus.
Okay, so these are the few initiatives and the schemes you have mentioned under the category of capital expenditure. Tell
Yes.
me that how the capital expenditure is being managed institutionally by the government authorities.
Institutionally managed by the government authorities. कैपिटल
Like,
एक्सपेंडिचर मैनेज मतलब दिस इज यहाँ पे क्या बोलोगे यहाँ क्या एनालिसिस कर सकते हो आप
I mean, the capital expenditure, how it is managed, what is the percent of, capital expenditure as far as the revenue expenditure is concerned. That what is I'm asking.
ओके दैट आई डोंट रिमेम्बर द एग्जैक्ट डेटा लाइक डेटा मैं ऐसे आई कांट से अगर वो सामने हो तो दैट वी कैन गो फॉर बट ऐसे अभी
Okay.
आई डोंट रिमेम्बर द प्रॉपर
No,
शेयर
no. So now we are taking the Indian aspects and specifically the important articles where we'll see. So now we'll take the explained page and especially the Nobel Peace Prize topic. So superfast subatomic particles move. This is an experiment which is done by these three laureates who have been given the Nobel Prize for the humanities for finding these humanity tools for exploring the world of electrons inside the atoms and molecules. So we just have to take into account that actually the very minimal of this because it's very scientific thing. Um, Attosecond science, what is this? It has a potential of applications in variety of areas from electronics to medicine across disciplines in physics, chemistry, and biology, and in medical science, particularly in finding therapies for cancer care. So we can say that attosecond science is having a direct relation with the cancer treatment, and there are processes that were even faster happening with few attoseconds, um, you know, on the photography, which is considered limited, and production of short pulses of light in attosecond range to cure these cancer-like diseases, and to also work in different fields, as you just mentioned, in different disciplines. So there is a data which is saying that demand for jobs is falling. Employment rate is lower than in 2017, what data shows. So obviously, why this is so? Because today's India is focusing on not on employment getting, but employment giving. There's a behavioral revolution because of the self-employment opportunities which have been created, and startup yojana which have been very much in focus. So labor force participation rate, it gives a sense of how many Indians are demanding a job. So labor force consists of person age above 15 who are either employed, unemployed, but willing to work and actively looking for a job. These are the various forms and types of employment opportunities, and it is expressed as the percentage of working age population. What is the unemployment rate? It is the number of people in the labor force who are looking for a job but have not found one yet, as per their expertise, as per their demands. So in India, the unemployment rate often underestimates the extent of joblessness because the labor force participation rate itself keeps falling. This happens because unemployed people who fail to find job get discouraged, and over time they start looking for someone else, something else. And here we can say that caste-wise labor force participation rate have been taken into account. When yesterday we were talking about the Bihar caste census, and we were saying that there are apprehensions of the political vote bank politics on the basis of caste-based census. But today what we are seeing that there are caste-based labor force participation rate data has also come into the picture. So the biggest fall in 2016-17 among the OBC and the scheduled caste. So we need to increase that, especially in the public sector as well as in the private sector. But in the private sector, we actually can't have a criteria as we have in the government. The reason because the private industry demands expertise and skill development, which needs to be increased under various government programs which are going on. Then unemployment rate, the post-pandemic economic recovery was at higher, and this trend is visible among in these categories and only especially in the OBCs. Then employment, and why so? When we are talking about so much, because the OBC section is very much populous as compared to SC and ST category. So that is the most important reason because of which we are seeing a lot of unemployment rate in this. And employment rate captures the combined reality of falling LFPR and unemployment rate for each caste category. And again, while the upper caste has a lower employment rate, the biggest fall has been witnessed among the SCs. So we can actually say that the unemployment rate is not only subjected to the OBC and the SC, but that is also affecting the upper section also.
Okay,
so we can move forward.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, I would just say कि we can just see कि यहाँ पे major जो shift देखने को मिल रहा है, that is more we can say of promotion of self-employment, but at the same time जो हमारे लिए again cause of concern हो सकता है, that is people who are not able to find a job, they have given up. So it is not important कि now they would be moving towards self-employment or not. So it is important to capture this part of the labor force also, because they form important part of the demographic dividend. So herein we can again go for more creation of jobs when we talk about skills mismatch एक problem है, and at the same time ensuring that people they are having those skills which match with the jobs oriented skills or not. So यहाँ पे वो mismatch को हम जो gap है उसको कैसे bridge कर सकते हैं, that is important for us. So here we have different schemes.
I think for that, apart along with the schemes which we have for the skill development, and especially which we have the national education policy started since 2020, which is focusing on the voluntary education and the skill development. But along with that, we have to rationalize our education system. Especially, we have to create education primarily for the job and primarily for the employment opportunities. And our education curriculums, our education modules should be such that they should be having a very much appeal, so that the students and the youth of our India do not have to worry about job opportunities, and they can use that education for multiple aspects also.
Yeah, so when we talk about specifically in the higher education sector, we can go in for the industry-led curriculum that can be shaped accordingly as per the demands of the industry. And we have already had a discussion on this topic also. So industry-led curriculum, and apart from this, even during your, the education also, higher education, you're completing it. So industry can also play an important role there, and apart from curriculum is that they can provide you with the internships and some life projects at that particular point of time, so that you're already prepared for the job after the completion of your education.
Yeah, and absolutely the most important thing is we should try to reduce the pollution population of India as soon as possible. So this is UAPA, that is the anti-terror law, which is in the last. Yeah. So what the sections of anti-terror UAPA invoked against Jews click say. So this is not that much important, but we have to look into account what is UAPA. This is an anti-terror law which actually book someone if found doing any sort of action, any sort of act which infringes the rights of individuals and provides any sort of insecurity to the people, to the state, to the government of India. And under it, the criminal law framework, we have an alternative criminal law framework which actually deals these cases. We have special courts for it. And there's a very robust anti-terror law, especially working in India, providing stringent conditions. So India's September diesel exports to Europe is highest so far in the year 2023. So this is an example that how the India is becoming robust in even exporting fuel to various countries, and especially to the Europe. And
And this change
along with
I
that,
would say is that it is majorly because India, it is in a way become a transit point between the Russia and Europe. So that's how things have reshaped because of sanctions that have been imposed on Russia after the Russia-Ukraine war. So India has become in a way the transit point of exporting the diesel exports or the petroleum exports to Europe.
okay, so can we say that India can become an export destination of diesel?
Now it all depends upon कि again हमारी domestic capacity कितनी है, क्योंकि already India जो अपनी domestic needs को meet करने के लिए we're already like importing 85% of the crude oil. So firstly we need to be again move towards developing that domestic capacity. हम domestically इतना generate कर सके, या not just diesel export. Why we are talking about diesel export? Because that is a fossil fuel. आने वाले time में we're talking about green energy transition. तो जो हम again when we talk about one world one grid, तो renewable energy export surplus में कैसे इंडिया एक important player emerge हो सकता है, I think that is much more important, and हम उस पे ज्यादा focus कर रहे हैं rather than being a net diesel exporter.
Okay, sure. So here we had already talked in detail about the e-gaming. So the government is having a stance. E-gaming will be brought under GST. The reason being it will absorb GST through cashbacks and bonuses, because in the e-gaming it is witnessed by the government authorities that cashbacks and bonuses comes in a lot of amount. So that will be a major reason because of which it is getting under the GST program. So apart from that, uh, the biggest one may be able to, yeah, this we have talked. And so about the our minister's statement we have also done in the earlier paper, that he's saying that OPEC to be pragmatic and make crude affordable. So on one hand, he's saying that India will be able to manage its domestic on the basis of its domestic production, the fuel volatility. But on the next hand, he's also saying that OPEC to be pragmatic and suggesting the rationalization of these agencies to provide the crude at an affordable price. It is the world's third largest consumer of crude oil and depends on import to meet over 85% of its requirement, which is a very much amount. And economy is very much sensitive because our food security is also dependent. Our climate change is also dependent on this. And high oil prices could have implications for trade balance, foreign exchange, rupee, and also the health of the economy. It could jeopardize the post-pandemic recovery, which is just we have achieved. And the oil prices have been volatile volatile for some times, but because of the due to combination of some interdependent factors, which include production cuts by major oil producing countries, signs of improved macroeconomic conditions, easing of inflation, and obviously the various global tensions which are going on, that is also having a major impact on this volatility. So let's see what the OPEC has to do in the coming span of time.
Yeah, so we've like already talked about कि India कैसे we are moving in the direction of reducing this dependence upon the crude oil imports. We are promoting green energy transition. We are promoting green fuels like green hydrogen. We are promoting fuel cell usage and like ethanol blended petrol. We are talking about. So ये कुछ areas है biofuels पर dependence कैसे हम increase कर सकते हैं. उसमें भी कुछ again particular set of biofuels है which are sustainable in nature. So that would be again helping us in meeting the carbon neutrality goals also. And
Along with that, also focusing on gas-based energy, then we are also having shifted our diplomatic relations in the form of oil relations in multiple countries rather than focusing on these Western countries and especially the West Asian countries. So we are working in this regard, and obviously the self-sufficiency cannot be achieved to a large extent, but yes, the government is constantly focusing on with the collaboration of our private sector to have a sustainable source of oil to run the country.
yes, so I think we can end it over here.
Okay, so this much we have in the today's newspaper session. We'll be meeting tomorrow with some new topics. So thank you so much. Stay with us and keep watching. Thank you so much.